Good afternoon and happy last Seattle World Cup match from the KUOW newsroom. This is Seattle Now. I'm your host, Paige Browning, with today's top stories. It's Monday, July 6th. Tonight, Seattle is America's spotlight city as the men's national team is set to play Belgium in a round of 16 match at Lumen Field, aka Seattle Stadium. We'll have more to come on the show, but an early heads up, fans have already descended en masse. That's thousands of Team USA fans marching to Seattle Stadium to When the Saints Go Marching In. Downtown streets are closing on and off, and in the Chinatown International District, there's a big community rally to draw people into a neighborhood that's been overlooked these games. Light rail trains started packing tight in the 2 o'clock hour. The vibes are on high, and no one knows it better than Casey Martin, who's been catching up with fans all tournament.
Today is the last World Cup match in Seattle this tournament, and Zachary Fajardo expects it to be the busiest. He would know. He works in Occidental Square right next to the watch party. Fajardo says today will be
packed. People are climbing up the trees. Whew. Be prepared. Be prepared. It's going to be fun.
The U.S. plays Belgium in round 16 today. The winner goes on to the quarterfinals. The loser goes home. Both teams have already each won one match in Seattle this World Cup. Fajardo says he's not ready for all the action to be over.
Damn, I'm going to miss this. Who knows how long we're going to experience this type of event again.
The watch party will stay up here through the rest of the tournament, but the final match in Seattle kicks off tonight at 5. In Occidental Square, I'm Casey Martin, KUOW News.
To our other top story today, hundreds of Seattle area Microsoft employees returned from the holiday weekend to find themselves out of a job. And Amazon announced plans to cut 57 positions in its home state. They're the latest in a series of tech layoffs over the past few years that have affected tens of thousands of workers. Monica Nicholsberg has more.
Microsoft is laying off 605 people in Washington. Worldwide, 4,800 jobs were eliminated. The layoff primarily affects Microsoft's Xbox and commercial divisions. I asked Microsoft President Brad Smith about the layoffs in an interview last week.
No company can be successful over the long term unless it is adapting to change, oftentimes changing the shape of its business. It may involve putting more jobs in one place, less jobs in another. You do have to remain healthy.
Microsoft says it isn't replacing these jobs with artificial intelligence, but that AI is changing the way the company operates. Monica Nicholsberg, KUOW News.
Seattle just logged its first month of June since 1970 with no homicides. Police and prosecutors are celebrating police hiring and community collaborations as part of the cause. But as the month turned, a rash of shootings hit Seattle over the weekend. 4 teenagers were shot during a house party overnight last night in Georgetown. A 16-year-old, 17-year-old, and 2 18-year-olds were shot. Police have not released information about a suspect. Last night, someone shot at a King County Metro coach bus in Soto, and a 39-year-old man on board was injured and sent to Harborview Hospital. And a shooting happened in North Beacon Hill in the early hours this morning inside a tent. Police say a man entered complaining of theft and shot another man inside, leaving him in critical condition. And finally, Friday night, a man was shot and killed in the Lake City neighborhood. Police reported the death as the first homicide in Seattle since May. Anyone with information about any of the shootings is asked to call the police tip line. Also out and about in Seattle, immigrant advocates and attorneys in the Seattle area are reporting a bump in ICE arrests. Gustavo Segrero reports.
ICE arrested 10,000 people nationwide over the span of 5 days last week, according to a New York Times report, calling it a major surge. In South King County, Angel Tepale runs a mechanic shop and tow service. When ICE arrests happen and cars are left behind, sometimes families come to him to tow the car away. There's a lot of arrests, he says. Before, you would see arrests and cars left behind, but nothing like this. He says this increase started weeks ago. He's towed 10 cars since June, all for free. He's not alone in noticing this. Seattle immigration attorneys have also recorded a shift of new cases starting in May, with more than a half of those new clients from the Seattle suburbs. The month before was much less. Community groups have noted recent arrests in Shoreline, SeaTac, Issaquah, and other Seattle suburbs. often people on their way to work. Gustavo Sagrero, KUOW News.
One person has been killed in a Douglas County wildfire north of Wenatchee that broke out over the weekend. The Douglas County Sheriff's Office reported today that deputies found human remains inside a burned car that had slid off the road yesterday. The Chelan Hills fire was reported just after midnight Saturday off of Highway 97 and is around 10,000 acres. And 4th of July brought joy for some and injuries for others this year. Fireworks injuries have sent at least 86 people from around the region to the hospital in the past week. Harborview Medical Center in Seattle says it's treated that many so far. 32 involved fireworks injuries to hands. Another 15 people have eye injuries and others sustained injury elsewhere. Nursing officials say it's a 65% increase in injuries over last year's Independence Day. The holiday also marked citizenship for new Americans. Just over 250 people, a nod to America's 250th year, became U.S. citizens in Seattle. They were all sworn in during the 41st annual naturalization ceremony held at Seattle Center. Now, our feature story today. Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson's presiding over maybe the best year in Seattle sports history. Politics reporter Scott Greenstone dug into Wilson's personal relationship with sports and what it means for after the World Cup.
The day before the U.S.-Australia match last month, Mayor Katie Wilson took to a West Seattle soccer field with other local politicians to play some visiting Australian members of Parliament. Wilson got the ball early on and went down.
Now, I would have preferred if someone had tripped me, but that was really just me in the turf.
We caught up in her office. Wilson is more of an informal pickup game in the park type player than on a big field.
The thing that I love about soccer, and I think what really makes it such a global sport, is that a group of kids, a group of adults, like anywhere in the world, put some backpacks on the ground for your goals and you can play, right? And so there's this really democratic side of that sport.
And more than the sport itself, the city, during this World Cup, hosting so many important international games and visitors, has been a juiced-up version of the vision she is trying to sell. Pedestrianized streets hosting giant watch parties. More people than ever are taking transit to get to.
This has been so good for our city, right? And it has been so amazing to see just thousands and thousands of people in our public space, joyful, talking to each other, connecting across cultures. And I think we all want to keep that energy going, right? Especially, again, coming out of these really hard years of the pandemic.
Art Thiel is a veteran sports writer. He says a mayor can benefit from great sports vibes.
There is a virtue and a value to being, culturally savvy in the use of sports, not only to promote a city, but to bring a tangible feeling of civic pride and enthusiasm.
The enthusiasm has maybe never been more obvious than this year. The Seahawks won the Super Bowl. The World Cup is here. The Sonics feel closer than ever to potentially returning. None of that is due to Wilson.
All of this is just random coincidence.
Thiel points out the FIFA and NBA developments were largely set in motion during Wilson's two predecessors' terms. In fact, since taking office, some of Wilson's prep for the World Cup has gone over badly with even her supporters. She installed cameras around the stadiums after opposing them last year, then went back and forth confusingly about when they'd be on and off. They're on right now. Wilson also hasn't delivered on shelters she promised by the World Cup, and homeless sweeps continue. So what happens when the World Cup is over and there's not a global love fest happening in Pioneer Square almost every night? The Seahawks probably won't win the Super Bowl every year of Wilson's term.
The buzz of winning a major tournament or a major championship is a temporary buzz. And so politicians can often ride that temporary buzz, but it's unlikely that they can translate that into a long-term buzz.
University of Washington professor Ron Craybill runs UW's Global Sports Lab, but the politics of sports in this town, he said, are unusual.
It is a sports town by all metrics. Lots of people are big fans. Lots of people are excited about it. But people are also pretty critical of public spending for sports and particularly sports infrastructure.
Go back 20 years. In 2006, Seattle voted overwhelmingly that any public investment in sports facilities had to give a fair value return to the city. Wilson was new in town then and said she doesn't remember how she voted, but she's skeptical of public funding for stadiums, especially with a tight city budget. That conversation could come up again. The Seahawks are up for sale. The potential Sonics owners could come to City Hall with their hands out. But right now, Wilson's focusing on Monday's World Cup game.
I think it is going to be amazing. There are going to be so many people in Seattle cheering on our team.
And she'll try again on the pitch at another electeds match, July 12th. Maybe this time she'll score. Scott Greenstone, KUOW News.
Next time on Seattle Now, our late-night food staple, the Seattle dog, was just named the best regional hot dog in the country by the New York Times' Wirecutter. Seattle Times food writer Ton Vinh is not a fan, but he can see why it stuck around.
It's just based on tradition. Because
like so many things.
Yeah, but it's something we just accept as part of our late-night culture.
Hear more about Seattle's hot dog underdog Tuesday morning. That's all for today from the KUOW Newsroom in Seattle. Our producer is Brooklyn Jamerson Flowers, and I'm Paige Browning. Seattle Now and KUOW are members of the NPR network. Hope your week's off to a great start. Go Team USA. See you later.